Chris here at the Handle It Warehouse. You just received your Model 1100 stretch wrapper. I know you're excited to start using it, but there's a few things we need to take care of before that happens. So when we ship these, we sometimes do ship them on a dedicated 10 feet of trailer space so that it arrives fully assembled. But usually what we do is we ship it knocked down in this massive box on this large pallet. So when it arrives, if you see it on the pallet and there's no box, or you look around the box here and there's huge dents or it just looks mangled, that's a good indicator that something may have happened in transit. So you definitely want to look it over before you sign any freight paperwork at that point. But as you can see here, everything looks great. So I would say it's safe to sign the freight paperwork and let the driver go. Let's open it up and see what we have inside. With this unit, there really aren't any exposed limit switches, and also the carriage is detached. So there's really not anything like that to be checking at this point. Really, you just want to take a quick overview and make sure there's not any huge gashes or dents. If there's any light cosmetic damage, just give us a call. We have touch-up paint for that. We can take care of you. So we took the carriage off of the pallet. We want to put it to the side so we can take the machine off of the pallet and then tip the tower up, which we'll get to in a minute. But I just want to let you know, when you grab this, do not pull it by the rollers to lift it. It is really heavy, so you might want to have two people grab it. You could either grab it underneath like this, or you could lay it down and each person could take a side. The next thing we're going to want to do is tip the mast up. The hardware for the mast and the carriage is going to be with the manual. So you got two bags here. So you're going to get this out of the way, pull this cord, make sure that's not there. And then as Amir pulls this up, I want to make sure this gets feeded through because you don't want to pinch these wires at all. All right. Now we're lined up here. Get the correct sizes. Next thing we want to do is start installing the carriage. The first step for that is going to that hardware kit I discussed earlier, grabbing two of these bolts. And you want to thread them in on these top holes. And what we want to do is go about halfway in, because we're going to use these to hang on the bracket that's on the tower. So like so. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lift this carriage up and we're going to put it on the bracket that's on the tower. And one thing to note, that's an offset bracket. And we set it there like so. And the next thing we're going to do is put the bolts in and secure it tight. The next thing we want to do in order to secure the carriage is we want to tilt it forward and put the bolts in like this. And then on the back side, you put the nut in there and then you can screw them in. The next thing we want to do is connect the power to the carriage. So we want to connect this inside of here. So in order to do that, we're gonna have to take off this top. So I'm gonna unscrew this here, and on the back side, there's another one as well. So I already took that off. So once I get this out, I can lift this up and pull it off. Now that the top is off, we can connect the power. So just pull this out here, and then you can see it lines up, it's color coded, very easy, like this, and just snap it all the way in and make sure it's all the way in as a secure connection. Then we can take the top and put it back on. Notice this hole right here, that's so that this can go through. So as we put it on, we are doing this. Now we can tighten it up. Now that we have the unit in place, we want to connect some power to it. The good news is that it's just a 110 plug-in, so no electrician needed. Couple recommendations. You don't want to use extension cords. You want to have a dedicated circuit, and you do not want to use a GFI outlet. All right, let's go plug it in. Now that we have the unit plugged in, we can power it up. It's as simple as just hitting the on switch, give it a second to boot up, and when it does that, it's going to ask for a reset request. You just hit reset, give it a second, it'll beep it when it's done. Now it's reset. Now that you've received your unit, installed it, and powered it up, we have plenty more videos to show you and how to use all the functionality of your Handle It Model 1100. The next thing we want to do is load the film. The type of film you're going to want to use on this is going to be machine grade film and a 20-inch roll. We recommend starting out with at least 80 gauge film. So in order to do that, I could grab this film and throw it on down here, but this does have a really nice feature on it for changing the film over so I can bring it up to an ergonomic level. So if I go here and just hit the jog down button and go down to coil change procedure and hit OK, it's going to raise the carriage up so I can easily put this on here instead of bending over. So to load the film, just pick it up here, set it on this spindle, and make sure it goes all the way down like so. It's on there. Then we're going to open this door, and that's just going off, letting us know that the door is open. And it goes straight through here like this. Just pull this all the way through it, and it has to go around this roller. Make sure that it's around this roller. It's just straight through and around that back roller. I close this. As a reminder, the diagram is right here showing you how to do that. So the film is now loaded. Now that we have the unit in place, powered up, and loaded with film, I want to give you an overview of the controls. Going over the display, we have the following. So going over the control panel, we'll go top to bottom and point out the controls. Very top here, we have the USB connection. This is normally covered up, but we just have it open so you can see. What that is, at the factory, we'll upload certain values to the machine of preset wrap cycles for you, so that when you get it, you have some presets. Benefit to you if you have the machine and something happens and someone kind of goes in and messes with the controls and you want it back to a factory default, we can send you an email so you can upload the USB to here and get back to factory default. Down from there, you have the power indicator. As you can see, it's blinking because the unit's on. Then you have the status indicator. If the machine's in use, that would be blinking. Then you have the start button. So that's used to start an automatic wrapping cycle. Also, if you hold the start button during a wrap cycle, it'll stop the carriage movement as the turntable continues to spin so that it reinforces wrapping in the area it was stopped at. From there, you have stop. This stops the wrapping cycle. If you hit start again, the wrap cycle will pick up where it left off. So you're pausing the wrap cycle when you hit stop. Reset initializes the machine to its home position when the machine is powered on or after an emergency. Also, let's say you hit the stop button and you wanted to start your wrap cycle all over, then you would hit reset because it's going to start from the beginning again. From there, you have the on-off button, pretty self-explanatory. From up here, actually, you do have the display. So this is when you're going through the programs, you can actually see what's on there. Then you have the jog plus and jog minus buttons. These are used to scroll through the menus and set parameter values. Then you have OK. This is used to select the menu option, enter the current view or setting level, and it's used to confirm values you have entered. From here, you have escape. This is used to exit a menu or parameter, to go back to the previous level, or to cancel the value you have entered. So below this, you have 6 icons. These are for dual usage. So the factory default is that each one is a quick select for saved pallets 1 through 6. So you can see like pallet 1, pallet 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want to change this, you can enable the function keys in the programming here. And what that'll do is make these live. So basically, instead of hitting this and it's pallet 1, it's turntable speed. This pallet 2 would not be pallet 2, it would be tension. This would be carriage down speed. This would be up speed. This would be top wraps. This would be bottom wraps. So if you enable those functions, then as you're wrapping a pallet, and let's say you wanted to quickly speed up the turntable or set the tension higher, you can do it quickly through this way. But most of the time, and the way we send it out, it is the 1 through 6, pallet 1 through 6. That's, you know, the most part, that's how people use it. Below that, you have the emergency stop button. Just push that in and it's gonna stop the machine right away. To disengage it, just twist to the left and pull out. And then once you do that, it's gonna say press escape and it's gonna ask for a reset. So then you would reset it, then you can continue on with what you were doing. When using this machine, you're typically going to be using the automatic wrap cycle mode. So in order to use that, it's pretty simple. You're gonna have your presets already done for the pallets you wanna wrap, and you're gonna walk over to it. I already have the film tied up. You're gonna select the pallet. So for example, I'm gonna hit 2, and I'm gonna hit start, and it's gonna wrap. I have it saved to wrap. Automatic mode is the preferred way to use this machine because it's much faster, but there is a manual mode on here, so I want to show you guys how to use that. One thing I want to point out here is that we're in program 2 or pallet 2. So if I go into manual mode, it's going to be whatever the settings are for manual mode in pallet 2. If I were in 3, it would be for pallet 3. So if I jog down here and go down to manual controls, hit OK, then hit OK one more time. Now if I hold in OK, the turntable is going to spin. And until I let go, it's gonna beep. And it's gonna keep going. I'm gonna go up, hitting the jog up button. So I'm holding it in right now. I'm still holding it in. If I let go of it, it's gonna keep wrapping right here. Now if I go back, and I hit jog up, I'm still holding jog up. I'm gonna get to the very top. And then once I get to the top, I'm gonna let go so it does one rotation. So I'm gonna let it go around one more time. And I'm gonna hit OK. That's gonna stop the turntable. Now I can cut the film off and go on to my next pallet. I wanna go through a full overview of the menu options on this machine. It might seem intimidating, because there's a lot of variability of how you can wrap your pallets available to you on this unit. Truth is, you probably won't use all the bells and whistles on this machine, but it sure is nice to have them and know how to use them if you do have a lot of variability in how you want to wrap your pallets. Let's take a look. So if you hit the jog down button, it's going to get you to the main menu. First thing you see here flashing is function keys. This is where you would enable the 6 icons on the control panel to either serve as quick start pallets 1 through 6, so you can see P1 through P6, or you could change them to the ability to select the setting that corresponds to the picture that's in there. You can see here, when we ship it out, we have it as P1 through P6. Then you have Save User Program. This is where you would input the pre-configured pallet wrap cycle and save any changes you made to it. Then you have Load User Program. If you're wanting to use any saved pallet wrap cycles besides the quick select, those 1 through 6 I discussed, you would do that here, because you can save up to 32 pallet cycles on this machine. So for example, you wanted to select save pallet number 7, you would do it right here. Then you have cycle type. This is where you would select the type of cycle you'd want to run. For example, if you want the machine to wrap the pallet with the carriage going up to the top of the pallet and then back down, or if you would want it to only wrap upward and then stop, or if you wanted to start at the top and go downwards. There's some more detail on that we'll do in another video. Cycle parameters, this is where you really fine tune how you want the pallet to be wrapped. So you can change anything from the tension, the turntable speed, the carriage speed, the number of bottom and top wraps. Here, there's a lot more you can do as well. We'll go through that specifically in another video. Then you have manual controls, which we talked about earlier. This is where you would go to be able to use the manual portion of the machine. Then you have coil change procedure. We talked about that when you load the film. You could go here and select it to bring the carriage to an ergonomic position so you can load and unload the film easily. Then you have general parameters. This is where you would enable different options that you may have purchased with this machine. For example, if you bought a top press for this unit or a remote control, you would go here to enable those features. This is something we would do at the factory. In these settings, there really isn't much you as a user should need to change. Then you have current values. Here you can see the current values of different aspects of the machine. The only one here you as a user might find useful is a carriage height. This would be useful if you want to specify a specific reinforcement height you want to wrap. By going here, you could determine which height you would want that set at. Then you have password. This is an area where you can lock out certain functions of this machine so that the users can't make any changes to certain areas of the machine. Password change, here's where you could change that password. Date and time, you could change the date and time here. USB features, this is where you can upload and download the parameter data and usage data. This is more for our use when we preset the machine before we ship it out. And again, if you did something at your place and someone messed up the settings, we could always get you back some information so that you could load a USB to here and get it back to the specific settings. Then you have service and maintenance. We just went over all the menu options, and within the menu options was a section called cycle type. I want to give you some more info and detail on the cycle types available to you. So to get to the main menu, we just hit the jog down, and then if we scroll down, we're going to go over to cycle type and hit OK. When we get there, we're going to see some options. So the first one blinking says up and down. That's probably the most common setting that people use. So under this setting, the carriage will start at the bottom of the pallet, wrap upwards, and then when the photo eye detects the top of the pallet, the carriage will then come back down and complete the cycle at the bottom of the pallet. Then we have only downwards. So under this setting, the carriage will raise up to the top of the pallet, and the turntable will remain stationary while it does that. And then when the carriage gets to the top of the pallet, it will begin its wrap cycle going downward and finish at the bottom of the pallet. Then we have layers. This setting is designed to wrap as you build the pallet. So when you hit the start button, the machine will start to wrap the pallet with the carriage going upward until the photo eye no longer sees the pallet. You can then begin stacking your next layer and hit start to wrap the next layer. Then we have manual TSD, also known as top sheet. This cycle is designed to allow you to place a top sheet on the load, and it will wrap the top sheet to the pallet. When pressing start, the carriage will rise and wrap the pallet. Once the photo eye detects the top of the pallet, the carriage slightly moves down and the cycle stops. At this point, you put the top sheet on the pallet and hit start. The carriage will slightly go up and wrap the top sheet, and then the carriage will go back down to the bottom of the pallet, wrapping the pallet in the process. Then we have bi pallet. This cycle is designed to wrap two pallets that are stacked on each other, so it reinforces where that middle pallet would be. Then we have only upwards. Under this setting, the carriage will start wrapping at the bottom of the pallet, and when it gets to the top, it'll stop and the cycle will be complete. So we went through the menu overview, and then we dug deeper into cycle type. Now I want to show you guys cycle parameters. This is where you really can dig deep into how exactly you want to wrap your pallet. So it can be a little intimidating because there are a lot of options. But let's walk you through it. So to get to the main menu, hit the jog down button. Then we're going to go down to cycle parameters. Then we're going to hit OK. First one here is bottom wraps. That's the number of times the pallet is going to be wrapped on the bottom. So you can set that value here. It's at 1 right now. Top wraps, same thing, but on the top. Then you have film breaking. So that's the tension. So right now you see it's set at 40%. That's going to be the tension that is going to wrap the pallet throughout the whole cycle. Now, very important here, after this, we have variable tension settings. If this is at 40, it's not going to take any of the next settings. So if you actually want these next settings to be live and active, this film breaking has to be at 0. If there's any value there, it's going to read that first. So if we go to bottom wrap tension, it's at 50, but that's not going to read it right now. Then we have ascent tension, top wrap tension, and descent tension. Then from there, we have rotation speed. That's going to be how fast the turntable is going to spin. Then we have ascent speed. This is where you set the speed for the carriage going up. If you have the tall pallet, you probably want to have this go slower so that you get more coverage in the middle of the pallet. Descent speed, same thing. You want to have it slower if you have a tall pallet, but if it's a short pallet, you would probably want to speed it up. Delay braking time, that's really not something that you're going to have to worry about. Flanging time, this is also known as the photo eye delay. This value is in seconds. So right now it's at 3 seconds. It's telling you how many seconds the carriage will continue to rise after the photo eye detects the height of the pallet. So the larger the number here, the bigger or more overwrap that you're going to have. Then we have pallet height. So if you turn the photo eye off, you can set this to just read a certain pallet height in centimeters. But if the photo eye is on, it's not going to read this at all. So right here on the next one, enable photo cell, it shows on. That means the photo eye is on. If you wanted to use the previous one, you have to turn the photo eye off here. Then we have wrap pallets. That's the number of wrap pallets that there's been done in this specific saved pallet. Then we have coil change height. So earlier we showed you that you can hit the coil change procedure. You can change the height here if you want to go lower or higher. Then we have initial carriage height. This is going to be if you want to start at a different height than at the lowest point. So you can set that here, and it's going to be in centimeters. Then we have final turn number. So if you want to add more to your bottom wraps, you can add an additional turn here. Reinforcement height. If you want to have some reinforcement wraps on a pallet, then you would enter that here in the height that you would want it at. And then here, reinforcement turns, you would actually, basically say how many turns you want it to do. So it's like top and bottom wraps, but for a different part of the pallet. Then we have final tension revolutions. So if you set a value for the final turn number, which I mentioned before, you could set a different tension here. Then we have manual table speed. So when you're in manual mode, this is where you would change how fast the turntable would go. Remember, this is within the pallet configuration you're at. So if we're in pallet 1 right now, if we're in pallet 2, this would be a different value. Same thing, manual carriage speed. You can change that here. And then manual tension, that's where you change the tension here. Then from there, you have recipe name. That is where you can actually call this what you want. Instead of just saying pallet 1, you could call it whatever name you want for that pallet. Then you have end cycle height. If you want to end your cycle at a certain height and not go all the way down to the bottom of the pallet, you can enter the height you want the carriage to stop at here. If you do this, you would have to enable this in the general parameter called carriage final cut position, which is G20. That was a good overview of cycle parameters. One thing I wanted to note is that if you have certain options added onto this machine, you would actually have more options within cycle parameters to choose from. So for example, if you had auto cutoff added, you would have 3 additional options to choose from within cycle parameters. So we gave you a good overview of all the options within this machine. Now I want to show you how to actually go in and make changes to an automatic wrap cycle. So let's say I liked how pallet 1 wrapped, but I want to make some changes to it and save it as pallet 2. So right now I'm in pallet 2, I'm going to go to pallet 1. So now I'm in pallet 1, hit jog down to go to that menu, and I'm going to go down to cycle parameters to make some changes. So right now there's only 1 wrap on the bottom. I want to change that to 2, so I hit OK. Go up to change to 2, hit OK. Now I jog down to top wraps. I want to change that to 2 as well. Hit OK. Change to 2. Hit OK from there. And then I'd like to take a look at the tension. So it's set at 40. Let's say I wanted to do a little bit more. I want to go to 45. Let's change 45 there. Hit OK. And then I'll go to the next one. Now remember, the bottom wrap tension isn't going to matter because we have a value in the previous one. So I want to go over to ascent speed and change that to 40. So if I hit OK here, it's at 80. I'm going to get it down to 40. Hit OK. And now within the general parameters, that's really all I want to change. I want to hit escape. And what I want to do is go over to cycle type. And I believe that was going up and down. Yep. I want to change it to only go upwards. So I'm going to go there, hit OK. Now I have that set. So I've made all those changes. Now I want to go up to Save User Program. Click OK. Now, if I save it now as pallet 1, it's going to make changes to pallet 1. What I want to do is actually make it for pallet 2. So I'm going to hit up, change it to 2. So I'm kind of doing a save as. And I click OK. And I've saved it. So it's saving complete. Escape to return. And now pallet 2 is going to have all those changes that I made. It was going to be like pallet 1 with the changes that I made to pallet 2. And now should we all be set to wrap that pallet. So two really nice features of this unit is that it has variable tension and also reinforcement wrap height. So looking at this pallet, you can notice pallet's inset, so you have some sharp edges down here. It's also double stacked, so you have sharp edges where this pallet is. So the nice thing about variable tension is what we can do is when we're down here, we can start at a lower tension, and as it's rising up, keep it at a lower tension. When we have that layer of film on there, we can then tighten it up because that layer of film is going to help protect from the sharp edges. Also, when we get to this portion, we probably want to reinforce it more right here. By using that reinforcement wrap height, we can do that as well. Let's go to the controls and we'll show you how to do that. So first thing we want to do is go to program 1. That's the one I want to be in. Then we're going to scroll down to get to the main menu. And I want to go to manual controls because I want to do is jog up and bring this carriage up so I can know what height I want to have the reinforcement wraps. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit into where I can see it's level with those two pallets. So about right there is where I want it. Now I want to know what height that's at. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go down to current values. Click OK. Now I'm going to try and find where we would have the carriage height. So carriage height. So right now it's at 61 centimeters. So I'm going to escape back. I'm going to go up to cycle parameters. Okay. And then I'm going to keep the bottom wraps the same, top wraps the same. I'm going to set the variable tension up here as well because of the pallets being there. So I'm going to set this to 0. So by setting this to 0, it's going to start reading the next ones. So C5, bottom wrap tension. So I want to go low on the bottom. I'm going to go like 25%. Because I don't want it to tear at all. Ascent, I'm going to go to 25 as well. Okay. Top wraps, I can keep it at 50 because it's going to be past those pallets. Descent tension, I'm going to keep it at 50 as well. I'm going to skip rotation speed. Ascent speed, I'm going to keep the same. Descent speed, I'm actually going to slow that down because I want that tight tension to get more of that pallet, especially on the way back down where those double pallets are. So I'm going to go to 40. Then I'm going to go over to, skip this, reinforcement height. So remember we had 61. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to set it to 61 centimeters. Hit OK. And then I want to do 2 turns there. So I go to reinforcement turns, change it to 2, hit OK. And that'll be all I want to do. So I'm going to go escape. I'm going to actually save this as pallet number 3. So save user program, because I still want to keep 1 how I had it. So I'm going to save it as pallet number 3, hit OK, escape. Now if I go to 3, it's going to be all those changes I just made. So let's go and wrap this pallet and see what we got. So before we start, we want to get the carriage back to the home position. So I'm going to hit reset. So we have the tension low at 25% right now. So you can see it's kind of loose. We're just trying to get that layer. Carriage is going to start going up. I have the carriage set at 65% speed right now. So far no tearing at all. Right here is stopping for the reinforcement height wrap, which we had 2 wraps going for that. Now it's going to go back up. So we're getting a good layer on here. It's nice and loose just so we cover up those edges. So we're at the top. It's going to stop, wrap around once, Now notice it's coming back down. Notice how much tighter the film is because we have that layer on. And I set it to 40% instead of 65 on the way up, it's 40%. Because it's a big pallet and I have that layer on and I want to get that tight tension all the way on the way back down. So far it's looking like it's doing the job good. Tear this off. So it looks like we have good coverage, nice and secure, did the job. So I showed you how to program reinforcement height wraps in automatic mode. You can actually do that on the fly as well. So what I did, I'm gonna do the exact same wrap cycle I did before, but I turned off reinforcement height, but I'm gonna start it and I'm gonna do it manually. By manually doing it, I'm gonna hit the start button when it gets to this point on the way back down. And as long as I hold it in, it's going to keep the carriage here. So let's start that. So again, we have the low tension on here like before, so we can get a layer on the pallet. And before, I had reinforcement height wraps set so that it did this portion, but I turned that off, so it's just going to keep going up. So now the tension will start to tighten up because it's coming back down, just like before. And it's also going a little bit slower on the way back down. So what I want to do is when we get right around here, I'll wait till we get to the middle of here. All right, I'm going to hold in the start button. I'm holding the start button right now, so that's pausing this. So now I'm getting a good wrap, and this is the manual way to do reinforcement height. Now if I let go, the carriage is going to keep going down, and it's going to continue the cycle that we were doing. So you basically have the same result, nice and secure. One of the cycle types on here that's available is called manual TSD. What that is, it's called top sheet mode. Essentially what that will do is you're gonna do your wrap cycle, and as the carriage goes up, it's gonna get around to this point, it's gonna go up, come back down, stop, and then you can put a top sheet on the top, and then you hit start to engage it again. And then it's going to come up and it's going to secure that sheet on there, come back down and wrap the rest of the pallet. Let's go to the controls and show you how to use that. All right, so right now we're in program 2, but I liked what I had in program 1. So I'm going to go there, then I'm going to jog down, and I want to go to cycle type. Keep everything as it was, except for I want to change it to manual TSD, which is manual top sheet dispenser. Click OK, then go up to save user program. And I want to save this as pallet number 3 because that's the same thing as 1 but with a top sheet. Click OK, and now it's saved. And now we can go ahead and start this wrap cycle. The Model 1100 has a cycle type called layers. The Model 1200 essentially has all the same functions as the 1100. So rather than recreate that and show you how to do it on the 1100, we're going to show you a video on how to do layers on the 1200. What layers is essentially starting with a pallet and stacking a layer of boxes. It wraps it, pauses, stack another, wraps it, pauses, and so on. So let's show you that video. All right, so I like what I had in program 1, so I'm gonna use that as my baseline again. I'm gonna jog down to go to cycle type, go there, and I'm going to choose layers, hit OK. Then I'm gonna go up and save user program, and I'm gonna save it as number 4, because I still wanna keep that number 1. So I saved it as 4, complete. Now I can just go to 4, and I can hit start, and we'll get going.